Most people hit 40 and realize they've been doing money completely wrong their entire lives. And the worst part? Nobody told them. Not their parents. Not their school. Not anyone. I don't want that to be me. And I don't want that to be you either. So today, I'm laying out every single money milestone I want to hit before I turn 40. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what you should be chasing too. Okay, real talk. A few years ago, I was doing what most people my age were doing. Living paycheck to paycheck. Telling myself I'd figure out money later. Thinking that as long as I wasn't broke right now, I was fine. Sound familiar? And then one day I sat down, opened a calculator, and did the math on where I'd actually be financially by 40 if I kept going the way I was going. And what I saw genuinely scared me. I wasn't on track for anything. No real savings. No investments. No plan. Just vibes and a direct deposit. That was the wake-up call. Here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud. Your 30s are the most financially dangerous decade of your life. Not because things are hard, but because things feel okay. You're making more money than you were in your 20s. You can pay your bills. You might even be saving a little. And because it doesn't feel like a crisis, you don't treat it like one. But here's the brutal truth. On screen, compound interest works for you or against you. Compound interest doesn't care about your feelings. It's working every single day, either building your future or quietly making someone else rich with the interest you're paying on your debt. The window between your late 20s and your early 40s is the single most powerful wealth-building period of your entire life. Miss it, and you'll spend the rest of your life trying to catch up. And most people, they miss it. But here's where it gets interesting. Everyone talks about retirement. Save for retirement. Max your 401k. Think about the future. And yes, all of that matters. But here's the counterintuitive thing I've realized. The milestones that actually change your financial life before 40, they're not the ones most financial gurus talk about. It's not about having $1 million. It's not about some perfect budget spreadsheet. It's not about driving a beater car and eating rice for 10 years. On screen, it's about building systems, not just savings. The people who win financially before 40 don't just save money. They build structures that make money work for them, even when they're sleeping, even when they're on vacation, even when they're watching this video. And those structures are built milestone by milestone. So let me walk you through every single one of them. And I want you to take notes because some of these are going to hit different depending on where you are right now. Also, stick around to the end because I save the most powerful milestone for last. Most people never even think about it, and it might be the one that changes everything for you. Milestone 1, build a real emergency fund, not a fake one. All right, milestone 1, and I know what you're thinking. Emergency fund? I've heard this 1,000 times. Just stay with me, because I promise you, most people are doing this wrong. Here's the deal. You've probably heard save 3 to 6 months of expenses. And sure, that's the standard advice. But let me tell you what actually happened to someone I know. On screen, 3 to 6 months expenses equals your real number. She had $2,000 in her emergency fund. Thought she was covered. Then she lost her job during a slow hiring market. $2,000 lasted her exactly 23 days. Why? Because she calculated 3 months of expenses based on what she wanted to spend, not what she actually spent. Rent, groceries, utilities, insurance, subscriptions, car payments. All of it adds up to way more than people think. So here's the real milestone. Before 40, I want to have a fully funded liquid emergency fund that covers 6 months of actual documented monthly expenses. Not estimated, not hoped for, documented. And here's the part most people miss. Where you keep this money matters enormously. Not in a regular checking account earning basically zero. I want it in a high-yield savings account. Right now, there are options paying somewhere between 4 and 5% annually. That means your emergency fund is literally making money, just sitting there. You're getting paid to be safe. On screen, HYSA equals your emergency fund's best friend. Think of the emergency fund not as money you're losing to savings, but as the foundation that lets you take bigger financial swings without fear. Because when you know your back is covered for 6 months, You stop making financial decisions from a place of panic. And that alone changes everything. But here's the thing about emergency funds that nobody talks about. Once you have one fully funded, you actually have to resist the urge to touch it for things that aren't emergencies. And that discipline is what separates people who stay broke from people who build wealth. Okay, milestone 1 done. Let's go deeper. Milestone 2. Become completely consumer debt-free. This one is the one I'm most personally fired up about. And for a lot of people watching this, it might be the hardest one on this entire list. Consumer debt, credit cards, car loans, personal loans, buy now, pay later debt, medical debt, not student loans, not mortgage. I'll get to those. I'm talking about high interest, soul draining, keeps you up at night consumer debt. Here's how I want you to think about this. Every dollar you're paying in credit card interest at 20, 24, even 29% annually is a dollar that is not building your future. It's actively destroying it. On screen, $5,000 credit card debt at 22% APR equals $1,100 per year in pure interest. Let me give you a real scenario. Someone carries $5,000 in credit card debt at 22% interest and makes only minimum payments. Do you know how long it takes to pay off? Over 15 years. And they'll pay nearly $7,000 in interest on top of the original $5,000. That's $12,000 to borrow $5,000. Read that again. Now imagine what happens if you take that same $12,000 and invest it instead. At a conservative 8% average market return, in 15 years, that $12,000 becomes almost $38,000. So consumer debt doesn't just cost you money. It costs you the future money you could have made with that money. Before 40, I want zero consumer debt. None. My strategy is a version of the debt avalanche method, targeting the highest interest rate debt first, then rolling that payment into the next debt once it's gone. It creates momentum. It saves you the most money in interest. And it's the mathematically optimal path. But here's what most people don't realize about debt payoff. The psychological relief of becoming debt-free is so powerful that it literally changes how you make every other financial decision going forward. You start thinking about money differently. You stop feeling trapped. You start feeling like your income actually belongs to you. That shift in identity, that's worth more than the interest savings. All right, debt-free. Check. Now what do you do with all that freed up money? I'm glad you asked. Milestone 3. Invest consistently before you feel ready. This is the milestone that I believe has the biggest gap between people who know they should do it and people who actually do it. Investing. And here's the thing. The number one reason people don't start investing before 40 isn't lack of money. It's waiting until they feel like they understand it enough. Until they have the right amount. Until the market feels stable. Spoiler alert, that moment never comes. Let me tell you about two people. Sarah and Mike. Same age. Same income. Sarah starts investing $300 a month at 25. Mike tells himself he'll start when things settle down and begins at 35. Both invest until 65. Sarah contributes $144,000 total over 40 years. Mike contributes $108,000 total over 30 years. At a 7% average return, Sarah ends up with approximately $820,000. Mike ends up with approximately $340,000. Same discipline, similar contributions. But Sarah's 10-year head start made her nearly $500,000 richer. That is the cost of waiting. Now here's my actual milestone. Before 40, I want to be consistently maxing out, or getting as close to maxing out as possible, my tax advantage accounts. That's my 401k, especially if my employer matches, because employer match is literally free money and not taking it is one of the biggest financial mistakes you can make. And my Roth IRA, which grows completely tax-free. The Roth IRA, especially, is something I wish I had started earlier. You contribute after-tax dollars now, and everything that grows inside it, every dollar of gains, every dividend, comes out in retirement completely tax-free. For anyone in their 20s or early 30s watching this, the Roth IRA is probably the single best investment account available to you right now, because you're likely in a lower tax bracket now than you'll be later. Lock in a low tax rate now. Let it grow for decades. Withdraw a fortune tax-free. But here's the mistake I almost made, and a lot of people make it. Picking investments that are too safe inside these accounts out of fear. Parking retirement money in cash or money market funds because the market feels scary. That's like buying a sports car and only driving it in first gear. The whole point is to let it run. For most people, a low-cost, diversified index fund is the answer. Simple, boring, and historically very effective. Okay, now here's where we get into the stuff that most financial videos skip entirely. Milestone 4. Build a net worth number that actually means something. Quick question. Do you know your net worth right now? Like the actual number? Not a guess. Not a feeling. The actual number. Most people don't. And that's a problem. Because if you don't know where you are, you can't navigate to where you want to go. Your net worth is the sum of all your assets, savings, investments, property, car value, minus all your liabilities, debts, loans, what you owe on your house. That's it. Simple formula. But most people never calculate it. Before 40, I want to hit a specific net worth target. And I'm going to be transparent about how I'm thinking about this. A commonly cited benchmark is that by 40, you should have roughly twice your annual income saved and invested. So if you make $75,000 a year, the benchmark is $150,000 in net investable assets. Now, is that a hard rule? No. Is everyone's situation the same? Absolutely not. But having a target gives you something to aim at. And when you're tracking your net worth every month, even just in a simple spreadsheet, something psychological shifts. You start making spending decisions differently. Every unnecessary purchase isn't just a hit to your bank account. It's a subtraction from your net worth. And every investment contribution is visible progress toward a number that means something to you. I use a dead simple spreadsheet. Assets on one side, liabilities on the other. Net worth at the bottom. I update it on the first of every month. Takes 10 minutes. And it is the single most grounding financial habit I have. Here's the thing about tracking net worth before 40 that most people don't expect. The number isn't always going to go up. Markets drop. Emergencies happen. And when your net worth dips for reasons outside your control, the tracking keeps you from panicking. Because you can see the long-term trend. You can see that the dip is temporary. You don't make emotional decisions. Data is a superpower in personal finance. Use it. Now we're getting into the stuff that separates the people who are just good with money from the people who actually build wealth. And this next one is one most people skip entirely until it's way too late. Milestone 5. Own an income-producing asset. This is the milestone that changes the conversation from saving money to building wealth. And here's the distinction I want you to really sit with. Saving money is defensive. It protects you. It creates a buffer. It's absolutely necessary. But owning an income-producing asset is offensive. It generates money without requiring more of your time. Before 40, I want to own at least one asset that generates income one didn't have to directly trade time for. That could look like a lot of things. Dividend-paying stocks or ETFs in a brokerage account. A rental property. A business, even a small online one. A product that sells while you're not watching. Royalties from creative work. A small equity stake in something. The form doesn't matter as much as the principle. Income that arrives without you punching a clock. Let me tell you why this matters so much before 40 specifically. The biggest financial risk most people carry into their 40s and 50s is what I'd call single income dependency. Your entire financial life depends on one source of money, your job. And if that job disappears through layoff, disability, recession, industry disruption, everything is at risk. One income-producing asset changes that equation completely. Even if it only generates $200 or $500 a month, that's income that survives a job loss. That's a cushion that doesn't require you to panic. That's the beginning of actual financial independence. Now, I want to be real with you here. Passive income is a term that gets badly abused online. Most passive income requires significant upfront work, money, or risk. It's not free, but the residual nature of it, where the work compounds over time, is genuinely transformative. A rental property requires a down payment, management, and maintenance. But after a decade, you have an appreciating asset, rental income that hopefully covers and exceeds costs, and equity building every single month. Dividend investing requires patience and capital. But a $100,000 dividend portfolio at a 3% yield generates $3,000 a year in income without selling anything. The key is starting before 40, because the income-producing assets you build in your 30s are the ones that could fund a completely different life in your 50s. But here's the thing most people don't realize about building income-producing assets. You don't need a lot of money to start. You need a decision to start. Even a small rental property in a growing market or a dividend portfolio started with $500 can over 15 to 20 years becomes something substantial. Okay, we're coming up on the final 2 milestones. These are the ones that most finance content completely ignores. And in my opinion, they're the most important ones of all. Stay with me, because this is where it gets really good. Milestone 6. Get life insurance and an estate plan. I know, not the most exciting topic, but I need you to hear this. Here's the most financially irresponsible thing a person in their 30s with any financial responsibilities can do. Not having life insurance and a basic estate plan. This is the milestone that people put off because it requires thinking about dying, which is uncomfortable. And because it doesn't feel urgent, until it suddenly, devastatingly is. Let me tell you a quick story. A couple, both early 30s, 2 kids, solid income, good savings. No life insurance because they were young and healthy. No, because that's for old people. The husband passed suddenly. No warning. And his wife, in the middle of grieving, had to navigate probate court, figure out how to pay a mortgage on one income, and fight over accounts that weren't in her name. The legal mess alone cost tens of thousands of dollars and over a year of her life. A simple term life insurance policy, which for a healthy person in their 30s can cost as little as $20 to $40 a month for $500,000 in coverage, and a basic will and beneficiary review would have prevented almost all of it. Before 40, I want all of this squared away. Term life insurance. Enough to replace my income for at least 10 years and cover any major debts. A will. Updated beneficiaries on every account. And if I have kids, a designation of who would care for them. This is the most loving financial thing you can do for the people who depend on you. And it's shockingly affordable and straightforward when you actually do it. Most people who put this off aren't irresponsible. They just haven't made it a priority. I'm putting it on this list because I want it to become non-negotiable for me and for you. And now, we've made it to the final milestone. And I meant what I said earlier. This is the one that changes everything. This is the milestone that almost nobody talks about, but the people who get it right, they end up living completely differently than everyone else. Milestone 7. Build what I call FU money, aka true financial optionality. Okay, here we go. This is the real one. Not a retirement account number. Not a debt payoff milestone. Not a net worth benchmark. FU money. Now before anyone turns off the video. That stands for financial optionality money officially. Here's what it actually means. Before 40, I want to build enough financial cushion in liquid, accessible savings and investments that I could, if I needed to walk away from a toxic job, turn down a project that doesn't align with my values, take 6 months off to care for a sick family member, start a business without terror, move cities without financial catastrophe. That is what financial optionality means. The ability to choose. And here is the deeply uncomfortable truth that most financial content dances around. Most people are not financially free. They're financially imprisoned. Not because they're broke, but because they've built lifestyles and obligations that require them to keep earning at a certain level, in a certain job, under certain conditions, no matter how those conditions make them feel. The golden handcuffs are real. Good salary, nice house, car payments, private school. Suddenly you can't afford to leave. You can't take a risk. You can't say no. FU money isn't necessarily millions. It's having enough that you don't make life decisions from pure financial fear. For some people, that's 1 year of expenses saved outside their emergency fund and retirement accounts. For others, it's 2 years. For others, it's a paid-off house that drops their monthly obligations dramatically. The number is personal, but the principle is universal. Before 40, I want to have enough that I could look at any situation, any job, any relationship with money, any business opportunity, and say, I'm choosing this because I want to, not because I have no other option. That's the milestone. That's the end game. And honestly, building toward that milestone changes how you carry yourself. It changes how you negotiate your salary. It changes how you respond to disrespect at work. It changes how you think about risk. The goal isn't just the money. It's the person you become while building toward it. Okay, let's zoom out for a second. 7 milestones. Emergency fund. Consumer debt-free. Consistent investing. Net worth tracking. An income-producing asset. Life insurance and estate plan. And FU money. None of these are glamorous. None of them involve crypto tips or get-rich-quick strategies or some secret that wealthy people are hiding from you. They're just clear, deliberate decisions made consistently over time. And here's the real realization I want you to sit with. The version of you that hits all 7 of these milestones before 40 doesn't live a wildly different-looking life on the outside. They probably drive a similar car, live in a similar house, wear similar clothes. But on the inside, the experience is completely different. They sleep better. They negotiate harder. They say no to things that don't serve them. They show up to work as a choice, not a sentence. They have options that most people don't even realize exist. Financial milestones aren't just about money. They're about freedom and clarity and becoming someone who builds rather than reacts. That's who I'm working toward being before 40. And I think that's who you want to be too. If this video gave you even one thing to think about differently, do me a favor. Drop a comment below. Tell me which of these 7 milestones you're working on right now, or which one surprised you the most. I read every comment, genuinely. And if you want more real talk about money, the kind that doesn't talk down to you and doesn't try to sell you something, hit subscribe. I drop videos like this every week. No fluff, just the stuff that actually moves the needle. And share this with someone in their 20s or 30s who needs to hear it. Honestly, the best time to have this conversation is now. Now, here's the thing about everything I just shared with you. These milestones are what I want to hit before 40. But what happens after 40? Because here's what most people don't realize. The financial decisions you make in your 40s are actually even more powerful than the ones in your 30s, if you set up the right foundation first. And in the next video, I'm going to walk through exactly what that looks like. What you should be optimizing for in your 40s versus your 30s, why the rules actually change, and the one mistake almost every person makes when they finally start feeling financially comfortable. Trust me, you do not want to make it. That video drops soon. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. I'll see you there.